Namaskaram. Hello and welcome, hardworking individuals. Why the Bihari migrant workers are seen as threat in different parts of India, and why time and again, though they are insulted in states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and other places, they have to go out of Bihar in search of the work. And do you know that Bihar is one of the poorest state in India, but once it was the richest state in the world. Yes, Magadha, the famous Magadhan Empire, where you see the names of Chandragupta Maurya, the great Asoka, where you had the Nanda dynasty at the time of whom even Alexander the Great and his army returned back hearing the military provinces of Nandas, where you have Nalanda University, which was more famous than the Oxford, Cambridge combined together, where you see that not only the fertility of the land was quite great, but you had many mines which can extract you coal, iron ore, and so many different minerals. But still, after that, we see today that that state is in so deteriorated place that today the people there are suffering. Today's class, we are going to see why Bihar is poor. So if you see the historical glory of Bihar, as I've already said you, that it too also was the first republic in the world. It was Vaisali in Bihar that was the first republic, and we already see about Nalanda's library that was once believed to house close to 9 million manuscripts, and it is said that when it was burnt, okay, at that time it took months for all the books to burn down. When we talk about the economic and the strategic power, the British commanded a near monopoly over saltpeter, and this saltpeter was an essential ingredient in the gunpowder. Now, if this saltpeter was not available, it would have been impossible for the British Army, French Army, or the Dutch Navy to use their artilleries. The region was also known for luxury textile exports and also for the agriculture prosperity until the 18th century. And then came the Britishers. Now this British colonial exploitation that started in the Battle of Plassey, that's 1757, then you have the Battle of Buxar in 1764, and then there was this Treaty of Allahabad in 1765, which gave the Britishers Diwani rights. And when they got this Diwani rights, they increased the taxes from 10% to 50%. That was quite a sharp increase. And not only that, after that, they implemented the Permanent Settlement Act of 1793. And what it did, it fixed the annual tax burden. And the taxes were quite very high, 80%, 90% of the tax. And it also made the jamindars the owner of the land, the peasants, the farmers, the rights from them were taken away. That was good for the Britishers, but it was not good for the people of Bihar. At that very time, Bengal, at that time Bihar, Odisha was the part of Bengal. So at that very time, you see there was this Bengal famine, and this made the things worse for the people. But Britishers did not decrease the taxes. Farmers were coerced to grow indigo, opium. What these cash crops did, they made the soil less fertile, depleted the quality of the soil. And also the tariff discrimination. 80% duties that was imposed on the Indian goods, which is being sent to world outside, which is sent to the Britishers. And the goods which was being imported, they were having 0% of taxes. So the Britishers killed our agriculture. They are also killing the handicraft industry, the product industry, the manufacturing industry. And this, I already said you, landlords became the rent collectors for the Britishers, and they exploited the tenants while transferring most of the wealth to the colonial government. Now, this was itself something which harmed the cause of Bihar. But then came the independence. And while independence, people believed that it's going to be good for Bihar. But then, at that time, the government used to follow the policy of socialism. It also thought that if all the industries will be in Bengal and Bihar, the other parts of India, the other states of India might not get that much developed. So for that, they introduced this freight equalization policy that was there from 1952 to 1993. Now, what was it? The Indian government, it equalized the freight cost of raw materials like coal and minerals across the country. Like for an example, if the coal is going from Bihar to Tamil Nadu and the coal is going from Bihar to Uttar Pradesh, it will cost the very same. At this time, what happened? The cities like Mumbai, Surat, Chennai, they were having better infrastructure. And because they were having the better infrastructure and the cost of the transportation was same, what did the people do? What did the business owner do? They went for the better infrastructure. And so, why? Because of this freight equalization policy, we see that the industrialization that could have been there in Bengal and Bihar was taken away from Bihar. Well, then what we see this lack of roads, ports, education, and investment. All everything did not come to Bihar. Why? Because there was no industrialization. Because of that very thing, and the separation of Jharkhand in 2000, when the freight uh, policy ended. After that, what was done? Jharkhand was separated from Bihar, and Jharkhand at that time was having uh, the biggest part of the revenue of Bihar. Most of the mines were in Jharkhand. And that advantage, which could have been very prosperous for Bihar, that was also taken away from. And while these things were happening, there was this governance crisis also, and a term known as Jungle Raj, where you see the leaders like Lalu Prasad Yadav and Rabdi Devi. They made some mistakes. Well, we are not going to go into the politics of it or whether which party is right or wrong, but the governance at that time was collapsing, and corruption and nepotism flourished at that time, deterring investment, migration of skilled labor, and further declined public services like education and healthcare as well. Now, after that, if you see, there were some major scandals also, like the very famous Chara Ghotala or the fodder scam. And it became one of India's largest corruption scandals, massive public funds embezzled through fake invoices for the cattle feed. Still, the cases are being fought. Now, what about the contemporary situation? Now, after all this thing that Bihar has faced, why it is still in this place? Things are getting better with time, but it is not at that place which place it should be. And it is because of the people of Bihar. Because still, when there are the elections in Bihar, what we see, people are not voting for education, they are not voting for employment, they are not voting for their own future. If they would have been doing so, the priority of the politicians would have been this all the things, rather not of talking about what was the mistakes in the past or showing the fear of someone else. There are some critical reform pillars if the people of Bihar or the politicians of Bihar can take over, like revamping the education system and the skills training, like infrastructure and industrialization developments, like honest zero tolerance governance, then this can really bring a great change for the future of Bihar. And then the Biharis can live very proudly in Bihar itself and also ask the people of different states like Tamil Nadu, like Maharashtra, like Gujarat to come to Bihar and invest and grow together. Well, what do you think? What are the reasons and what are the reforms that can be taken for the betterment of Bihar. If you liked, please like and subscribe so that we meet again. Thank you so much. Namaskar.